We're at more than 1 million channels on the LBRY network. So those are blockchain entries. I mean, there's 1 million
Mhm.
identities on the LBRY blockchain. We're going to go to 1 billion. It's dicey for us to even like analyze or talk about that. So you can kind of do your own homework here, but try to do some math on how the LBRY blockchain plays out when you have billions of identities and tens of billions of pieces of content published to it. And right now we're at a little over 10 million pieces of content and a little over 1 million identities.
Mhm.
So I think the future of the LBRY blockchain is very bright. And all of our data and analysis shows that.
I live unbanked off of cryptocurrency, and I use Bitrefill extensively because it lets me pay with crypto at places that don't yet accept it directly. This one service, more than any other, helps me live on crypto, pay your prepaid phone bill, or buy gift cards to thousands of major retailers around the world, all with cryptocurrency, including for exact amounts so you don't have to buy more gift credit than you need for a specific purchase. You can use Bitrefill without an account, but if you get an account, you can earn rewards points, which translate to savings, and you can also hold a balance denominated in dollars or euros to protect yourself against market crashes. Go to bitrefill.com, click Create Account, and enter the referral code DCN, or follow the link in the description.
Hey everyone, I had the wonderful pleasure of once again, speaking with the one and only Jeremy Kauffman, the CEO of LBRY and Lord Regent of Odysee, or I don't know what your title is there, but how's it going, man?
It is going really well. We've had some amazing recent news with Odysee, which I'm sure we'll talk about, developments in the court case, but like everything's just going up and up and up.
Yeah. So let's just talk about, do you have any developments in the court case that you'd be willing to share, or general attitudes or anything towards the SEC? I've seen some tweets and things like that from, the SEC is really having coming of age in this new crypto age, and it's not all positive for them. I've seen some people talking about how they should be reined in, or they shouldn't be regulating this, or they're going too far, and then there's settlements and stuff. So anyway, what's the whole like SEC regulation kind of situation like?
Yeah, so we filed our response, which is available online. I actually need to publish that to the official LBRY channel, or make that available on the LBRY network so people can access it on there. But it's public, so it's you can get it online through like Pacer or whatever. And we're feeling really confident about that. I think in general, like I actually feel like the SEC is kind of in more trouble than we are. I mean, just yesterday, 2 of the 5 commissioners broke with the rest of the SEC and said, hey, what we're doing doesn't make any sense. We're treating these companies really unfairly. We haven't given them clear rules and this kind of thing. And I actually think, the SEC is in a bit of trouble because their entire business has been to not give people rules, right? Their entire business is everyone is scrutinizing one speech given in 2018, and that's it. And they're attempting to figure out what this means. So everyone's guessing. And I mean, even with our case, right? I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get legal opinions, and then did exactly what those lawyers say. The SEC says that's wrong, but won't tell you how, right? Like they really act like the mafia. They say you got to give us some money. What can I, but we won't tell you how to follow the law in the future. They say go hire a lawyer to tell you how to follow the law. Well, we already did that, and they're rated as top 20 lawyers in the space. They were very well regarded lawyers, and so the SEC, their quote business model is to use incredibly vague regulations, go after people incredibly aggressively, and say give us some money and we'll go away. And unlike a lot of other companies, we did not just give them the money to go away. We even said we don't think we did anything wrong. We'll give you money if you tell us what these rules actually mean. And they said, no way. We absolutely will not tell you what the rules are. And they're going to have to tell us. That's why we're going to court, because if I get them on the stand, then they're going to have to tell us the rules, or they're going to have to, in front of a judge, say, well, the rules are made up. We don't know what the rules are.
Yeah. So either way, like if you say the rules are made up, obviously that goes really well for you. If they say these are the rules, then even if you're on the south side of the rules, there's still a road to compliance, but more importantly, it's a precedent for the whole rest of the space that now everyone knows exactly where to go, right?
Precisely. And that's all I need. Like, I need to know the rules as an entrepreneur. How am I supposed to build a business if I don't know the rules of the game that I have to follow? Right. And now, of course, in my view, like there should be some sort of victim. People should have to have some kind of problem with what happened. And of course, that hasn't happened in our case. But even if there are rules that I disagree with, I will follow them if I know what they are. I can't follow rules even if I might disagree with those rules, if they're unwilling to specify them, right? And so right now the SEC has been completely unwilling to specify what the rules actually are.
Yeah, and so I remember last time I talked to you about this whole court case thing, you were relatively, I mean, obviously optimistic about the future, but I guess sort of pessimistic about the outcome of the case. Not necessarily pessimistic, but like realistic of like we're fighting an uphill battle here. Is that general perspective changed since then? Are you more optimistic, less optimistic, or the same kind of, but with new information?
Yeah, my negative sentiment that I may have expressed in the past, I still have today, in the sense that like I'm trying to build a business and I'm trying to sprint up a hill. And now I'm dragging this ball and chain behind me as I'm trying to do it at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it's still that way. I mean, we've lost potential partners. We've lost big deals that we could have gotten done because of the SEC. So, we're managing to achieve pretty unprecedented success in the sort of blockchain DApp space. And we're doing that despite having this dragging us down. So as soon as I'm able to cast this off, I mean, this thing we're going to move even faster than we've been moving currently. And, but it's tough. I can't really let it get me down when everything else is going, pretty well, even despite, this happening. It is frustrating at times. And I'm the kind of guy who already has some problems with government and authority. And so now it certainly is not like psychologically pleasant for me to have to go through some of these things. But, with everything else going so well, both at work and in my personal life, I just, I'm not going to let them get me.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. So you're talking about like success and things. I've noticed on the Odysee platform, there's been a whole lot of growth, a whole lot of new channels. It was especially since like the crypto content I think it's kind of been like a slow increase. Like we kind of got a lot of them in the early days. And, for example, my view counts are growing and things, but they're not like anything special. But my little like libertarian rants, for example, that I do, those ones used to not do very, very well at all. Now they're getting like 1,000 views and over, which is like way more than I ever thought. You could see there's a lot of growth on the platform and that kind of area. But mostly I've been impressed at like the feature rollout from, the playlist to then the live streaming to then the live super chats to then the actual credit card support kind of thing, which we'll touch on a little bit. What's been like the growth of Odysee? You want to just ramble about that? I'm sure this is going to be your favorite part of the whole talk. Is just like,
well, yeah. We've been relentless builders, and yes, it's my favorite part because I love taking credit for other people's work. So, it's one of the great parts of being a CEO is that you do very little of the actual work, and people say, "Oh, you're doing so well, Jeremy." And I'm like, "Well, actually, yeah, I'm not." No, it's all other people. Right? I mean, we have we've got an incredible team of people, very bright, hardworking people, and that's why we've been such relentless there's been such relentless improvement in terms of the technology. Now, of course, the SEC doesn't like that. The SEC thinks that technology should be finished and static and never change or improve. But yeah, we've continued to make improvements on Odysee. Well, playlists are official part of the LBRY protocol. So playlists are fully decentralized. They're published to the blockchain, and so they have all of those properties of the LBRY network. Odysee is we're now, and this is part of why we launched Odysee. We're allowing Odysee to push a little bit ahead of the decentralized features, so it can layer things on top. The same way that, like, if you use Coinbase or other apps for Bitcoin, there are features there are things that Coinbase does related to Bitcoin that aren't part of the Bitcoin protocol, say in terms of like keeping them safe or whatever. So it's the same kind of thing here. And so we have added support for credit card tipping, and this is also partially a patch due to the government issues, right? So it's like I would love to take a credit card payment, use LBC as rails, right? Not allowed to do that. That's the, or at least potentially not allowed to do that. And so we've got to play it safe a little bit there. And so we're not using the LBC as the underlying rails. But look, the LBRY network is stronger than ever. It's growing bigger than ever. We're at more than 1 million channels on the LBRY network. So those are blockchain entries. I mean, there's 1 million identities on the LBRY blockchain. We're going to go to 1 billion. We're going to go to more than 1 billion identities on the LBRY blockchain. Like the LBRY blockchain is only going to grow and grow and grow in usage. And look, it's obviously like it's dicey for us to even like analyze or talk about that. So you can kind of do your own homework here, but try to do some math on how the LBRY blockchain plays out when you have billions of identities and tens of billions of pieces of content published to it. And right now we're at a little over 10 million pieces of content and a little over 1 million identities. So I think the future of the LBRY blockchain is very bright. And all of our data and analysis shows that. And so, it's been, again, it's always like dicey to even talk about these things, but sort of like there can be some things like that are a little bit uncorrelated. There have been some issues related to the court case, like exchanges in Korea dropped us over that, which was a little surprising to me because they don't have to follow US law. And so stuff like that. And that has sort of harmed access to the token. But our company's in good shape. The SEC isn't trying to destroy the network. We're going to get through this. So if we have to weather, a year of things being, not where we want them to be legally around the blockchain, or even 2 years or whatever, that's what we'll have to do. But, the overall usage is up so much. I mean, we have VCs knocking at our door, basically begging to give us money, not even caring about, they care about the blockchain piece, but not in a speculative sense, in the sense of wow, this thing is so successful, we want to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. And so there's no way, there's no existential threat, none. And so we've got to get through this. We've got to get to the other side where we now know the rules of the road. And we're going to continue to grow through this period. And when we get to that other side, we're going to it's just going to grow even faster.
Yeah. And so there's a few things that, I mean, obviously the network it seems like right now the network is being mainly used. It was kind of like an integrated ecosystem, or at least that's always been the vision ever since Odysee became the most successful thing. And then the court case hampered a lot of the token efforts. It seems like the network is a lot more of like a skeletal backbone to the thing, but it doesn't quite run entirely off of it. Which, for example, how many creators do you think will be able to just run on the full client, including financially, at this point? It's probably a little bit, that part's probably a little bit rougher, but, as far as the actual Odysee site on top of it, it's much, much easier.
Yeah, well, I think, LBRY as a technology, so I think you're right that it does make sense for creators to be on Odysee and earn the extra money that comes from being on Odysee. But LBRY, actually, when it was conceived of, was never, we didn't think we were creating a YouTube competitor when we created LBRY. That's the truth of the matter. That was us being, pragmatic and kind of realizing an opportunity. We did think it would be used for video, but we thought it was going to be used in sort of a different way. And we also thought it would be used for much more than video. LBRY as a technology is agnostic to what it's being delivered. It doesn't have to be videos. And so what we are trying, this kind of already been happening, it's only going to continue to happen. We are trying to separate those a little bit, let LBRY be this pure technology that can be used in ways beyond video. LBRY is fundamentally an identity system and this data distribution system. And when I say data, I mean essentially files, content, pieces of content, right? It was never, LBRY was never intended to be fundamentally social, or fundamentally this only user generated video type kind of thing. And so we're looking at how can we bring the LBRY identity system and discovery system and all the things that the LBRY network fundamentally provides, look at how we can bring those into other spaces, into other apps, let Odysee kind of fly off and be its own thing, still relying on LBRY, still dependent on LBRY. Odysee can't be divorced from LBRY. It would have to give up. It would have to give up everything, and it'd be completely illogical. But basically, it is good that they be less coupled. Free up LBRY to push into other areas, right? We can have a news site built on top of LBRY. We can have like apps centered
Docs
around
kind of thing.
Where docs or right. So if you look at they're multi-billion-dollar companies in a variety of spaces, everything from CAD files to documents like scribes to podcasts and music to news to longer form blogging, and LBRY has the ability to disrupt or interact with all of these things because it gives you this identity that you own, that you can take across various platforms, that you can take across various spaces. And so we want LBRY to keep pushing to sort of be oriented independently from Odysee. Odysee is a YouTube, as the successor to YouTube. It's going to keep pushing full steam ahead. It's never going to get away from LBRY as that fundamental identity, discovery publishing system. If it wants to do other things beyond that, let it do it. Let it be oriented towards just pure growth. Let LBRY be oriented in another direction. It's supporting Odysee, but it can do all kinds of other things. And that's the way that that's sort of the direction we've been moving in.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the way the actual network is going to scale. Well, first off, really, really quick, how's scaling going and how is it looking? Obviously, as a veteran of the block size wars, I've seen all kinds of scaling stuff go. I've seen BSV and the gigablocks and all that kind of stuff. And I run my own Lightning node right over here just so I can be in that. And that's, for all the promise that can have, that's kind of a nightmare right now. Are we going to, and of course we see Ethereum with its $100 million fees or whatever it is.
Yeah.
How well is the LBRY network scaling, and are you going to see a point at which you might be trying to publish a claim and then it's an hour later it's still not published because the blockchain's slow, or then the fees start to shoot up or anything?
Yeah, I both look forward and don't look forward to scaling problems. I look forward to them because it means we'll reach we will be at an unprecedented level of success. The level of success, that level will be about probably 10 to 20 times the current rate of usage. We would begin to have some potential bottlenecking for people who care about there's sometimes competing interests, right? Because scarcity in blockchain space makes it more valuable, but of course we are focused on usability, and so we would want to address those problems. We do have some work being done on that right now. We're actually essentially rewriting the entire blockchain, moving away from a C++ implementation to a Go implementation, which we think will also allow us to continue to improve it faster. The blockchain hasn't changed very much honestly has not changed that much since launch. The largest feature to be added, actually the full channel system wasn't there right away, but it's been pretty static for some time, and we do think we need to basically be ready. So we're setting these things in motion to begin preparing for these what I think of as good problems, because it means it's a very popular thing to be using. It's good, Ethereum's it's oh, I'm so successful that I that I have these problems. That's true of Bitcoin, that's true of Ethereum. We don't want to repeat some of those mistakes. I don't want people to ever have to pay, large amounts of money to publish something. I don't want people to have to wait hours for their publish to go through. And so we are trying to get ready for that. But we would need to be at about 10x, at least 10x a higher rate than we're at right now before there would potentially be any problems.
Now, separate from the actual blockchain scaling bit itself, what about storage? So the way, it works right now, you run your node, you download the files or the blob files or whatever, and then you seed it sort of BitTorrent. That's kind of my basic understanding. My also basic understanding is that there hasn't been necessarily enough of this organically so that there's a sort of LBRY Inc. is sort of running a lot of this kind of stuff. And I heard something about a allusion towards incentivizing running full nodes of storage and stuff at some point in the future, but that it's not soon. So do you want to kind of talk about like the actual file storage part of that and how that's working or not working in a decentralized way?
Yeah, I mean, there is still development on that. There's more. I mean, there's more nodes connected to the network than ever. So I think the network is stronger than it ever has been. Odysee does, and this is again another reason to kind of continue to separate them. But the foundation is also doing work in this area where I believe it's now incentivizing or beginning to do independent incentivization in this area. And as Odysee kind of goes off, Odysee will be participating in this area as well. There has been more development in this area where there are now tools for people who want to sort of participate in a sort of more industrial way. You know, you can use pieces of software to say like, hey, I love these channels. You know, make sure all of this data is backed up and available. And so I think that the network here is stronger than it ever has been. Could more work be done? Yeah, that's always true. Is this an area that could probably use more attention? Probably. But again, you know, I think like, remember, BitTorrent works without any incentivization, right? Mm-hmm. And content remains available. So, you know, we think that we're already at that BitTorrent plus case. Can we be BitTorrent plus plus or BitTorrent plus plus plus? Yeah, I think we can be, and I'd like to be. But I don't think it's like, I definitely don't think it's, you know, like a vulnerability or something like that in the current state of affairs.
Yeah, I remember the old days of the file sharing days. I used something called eMule. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
I just remember like my obscure tastes in music were really biting me in the ass because I'd have something that was like a third downloaded for the entire like month. And then every once in a while, I'd be like, oh, no, the remaining seed, he's online. Is it? Oh, man, he left. And then just kind of waiting for that thing. And so
yeah.
Hopefully we don't get that with the obscure Odysee channels I might try to frequent.
Right. And I remember that as an email user. I mean, I was a really early P2P person and went through sort of all the progressions from even we had, you know, the original sort of like Napster days, and then eMule was a big innovation on that. The eMule was basically the precursor to BitTorrent. They were the first people to kind of figure out, hey, we can chunk the file. We don't have to download the file sequentially from one person, right? Which is how the earlier iterations were like, oh, we can break the file into chunks, and then you can get any chunk of the file from any person. And that was a big insight. And then from there, that led to the development of DHTs and distributed hash tables, which are the underlying thing of BitTorrent. I learned about those when I was studying computer science. Actually, the design of BitTorrent is considered like so important or novel. It's actually covered in academic computer science classes because it's a very interesting technology. I remember learning about it, blew my mind when I learned how they worked, and honestly, all of that set on the path to developing LBRY today.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, so now we're talking about the token, which is literally all anyone cares about in 95% of crypto is just what does the token do or how much does number go up? And LBRY is one of those fantastic examples that honestly helps me keep my sanity because I look at different cryptocurrencies and their usage, and then I see like Dogecoin go to the top, which Dogecoin has some OG credit despite being a joke. But then I see new ones and it's like maddening about like, oh, why is everything going so poorly? And then I look at LBRY, which is the best example of polar opposites in terms of end user product success and market cap ranking failure. If you are, it gets more ridiculous all the time because it gets more and more users, and like actual daily usage, and more like hype, more and more everything on the one side, but then the token is like kind of, it's this huge divergence. So kind of like it restores my I don't know, it doesn't restore hope in anything necessarily, but it restores my perspective that I don't take that signal as a indicator of success or failure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy. Like you go down some of these ones, and I try not to like specifically attack quote competitors, but you know, you look at some of these tokens, like now Ethereum, clearly there's real usage. There's a lot of real stuff happening there. But you look at some of these other ones that are quote like Ethereum competitors that are supposed to enable these like DApp type things, and they'll have like these insane prices. And then I go and I'll try to find one, like, what's like a single app I can actually use? And it's like, it's all hype. And I just don't, and you know, it'd be one thing if this track record had proven successful where companies had managed to take this hype and then like later turn it into something. It's never worked. I mean, EOS spent more money on their domain than we've ever spent, you know, total, you know, as a company.
They probably spent more on their SEC settlement than you guys spent total.
Right. And you know, and it was all a complete failure. So like, I continue to believe that this is the right strategy, that like usage growth, like that's what's real. You know, speculators are going to come and go. Right now, I think they are at you know, at probably an all-time low.
Speculative bottom.
Yeah. And it has become challenging. The SEC case definitely has made it challenging with some of the token stuff. But again, like, we're going to get to the other side of that. And then we'll be stronger, because like, we'll give them whatever they want. You know, if they want to destroy the entire company, fine. Like, you know, the network stays up, and then we'll know the rules, and we'll be able to move forward. So, you know, like, I would way rather be where I am right now today, because it is so hard to build a product to the point that it's being used by millions of people every single day. Like, that's harder than, in my opinion, than generating a bunch of hype and getting people to believe in you for 3 months or 6 months or whatever. Like, because it doesn't, that's, you know, that's not real.
Of course.
And so like, I do, you know, I think over time, you know, things will reach alignment. We'll reach alignment here. So,
yeah. Now, as far as we're talking about, you know, obviously the token is used for a couple, I mean, in theory, it's uses money and in supports and things like that and all kinds of things. At its very base level, though, what is absolutely required for is just to run the actual network, to pay the miners, and then, you know, actually run the back end. Now, at some point, do you foresee a situation where that becomes the scarcity, where now people say, oh, I need a token in order to publish. I never saw this before. But now that you know, the network is being used so much, now all of a sudden I'm gonna have to find a way of buying a token just so I can publish my stuff, and then that becomes an issue, because people have not had any good on ramps for buying the token, partially because of SEC stuff, but partially because of demand, because they don't need to buy it, and then now they're looking at, they have to buy it to publish their content, and it's a big pain, and then they start to not want to use, for example, Odysee anymore. Do you see any kind of a situation like that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that like we're vigilant towards, and I do think that is the most fundamental reason that people will need the token. You're talking about the LBRY blockchain becoming a decentralized catalog of content that exists in the world, as well as a decentralized identity system for the people who are creating and publishing that content. And you know, as I said earlier, we see that scaling from the now we're at 1 million identities, more than 10 million entries in the catalog. We see that as scaling to, you know, probably 1 billion identities with, you know, tens of billions of items in the catalog, which is, by the way, another scaling problem. We think we can only scale currently to probably about 30 to 50x of the size of the catalog currently. So again, that's something where we'll have to continue to figure out ways to improve that. I don't think, like, it's another one of those sort of like nice to have problems where it's like, oh, this, like, if it's so popular and simultaneously the government is still trying to throttle it, like, I'm a creative guy. We'll find ways to work around it. We'll find, you know, whatever it is, we'll find ways to enable people to exchange the token and get the token into people's hands. Right now, I don't think that's a problem, partially because people can go to Odysee.com and get some for free still. So you don't have to, and doesn't take very much to you know, a couple of tokens is going to be enough for probably like the entire lifetime of your publishing. You know, so right now you can get, you know, get 25 cents, 50 cents worth, it'd probably be enough for the rest of your life. Might not be a bad idea to grab a little bit just so you have some. But like, I think it's something to be vigilant towards. I don't think it's something that's happening now. And I would bet that we're able to prevent it from happening, but it's like, it's not an impossible scenario. And it is a good thing to kind of like be cognizant of.
So as far as like the miners are concerned, obviously right now they're content to pay the 0.1, your 0.01 or whatever. Is that the minimum published cost?
I don't think there is a minimum. And well, so there's a minimum. The minimum would be 1 Dewey, which is the sort of the Satoshi equivalent. And then the transaction fee, and the transaction fee would be more than 1 Dewey. The transaction fee is variable based off of the size of the transaction. So actually, because the metadata is going into the transaction, like if you write a longer description and things like this, it actually does increase the cost marginally. Transaction fees are low. I think it's like, I don't know what it would be for an average size transaction, maybe 1/100th, maybe less than 1/100th of 1 LBC. Yeah. So, yeah, the minimum, like you have to stake 1 Dewey, which is, I believe, like I believe it's like 0.070 and then a 1. So like 1/100 millionth of an LBC. Yeah. And then the transaction fee, which might be
another couple hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
So right now the miners are content to do that because they're getting the block reward. What is the emission schedule kind of look like to where do you foresee a time in the near-ish futures and let's just say next 5 years, that's near-ish,
no,
where those miners aren't paid enough to they're going to want higher fees to include these transactions, and then it's going to go up?
I don't think so. I think like now the emission schedule does continue to ramp off, and this is another one where we're not afraid to free ride off of other people's work. It's called being efficient.
Yeah.
And so I'm just shameless about it. Like other people, I'm like, no, we just copy people that did work for us. And hey, that's other people can copy us. That's the beauty of innovation. And so like Bitcoin is going to have this problem has this problem sort of, how does the Bitcoin network work when there's no mining rewards? Will transaction fees sustain it? These kinds of questions. People have answers to these questions, but in my opinion, like everything is it's always a question until sort of reality happens. So we can attempt to do these analyses up front and make these predictions, but sometimes our predictions are wrong. So that's definitely something I'm watching. Bitcoin will be there ahead of us. So I think that this is another one where this is something that the cryptocurrency industry will have to get through and figure out. Can we have public blockchains that are sustainable without mining rewards? If you need mining rewards for all time, can you have public blockchains that are inflationary? And can that also work? Like I'm not saying the LBRY blockchain is about to become inflationary, but like I don't think it's a given. Like maybe the optimal design for a cryptocurrency is 1% inflation a year. Like, I'm not suggesting we're about to do that. Don't start saying LBRY is about to do that. But like, there's a bunch of open questions. We should never think that we figured it all out. And so, we've got, we're paying attention to things. We're solving the most pressing problems first. These problems that might be pressing in the future, we're kind of paying attention to and thinking about and expecting that with our ingenuity we'll be able to continue to solve problems as they come up.
Yeah. Now, so as far as the value proposition of the token, the one big one is you need it to publish stuff, and that seems to be a thing it's not going to actually economically impact people for a very long time. They won't need to be like, hey, I need to put some money into the LEC ecosystem because like I need tokens and I can't get them. It seems like it's pretty easy to get just enough for that. Now, as far as the closed loop, the economic loop, right? So hyperchats obviously are I would say the first like big reason to get the token, because you get that exclusive access kind of thing. I think the card buying thing doesn't allow you to do hyperchats now, but it might in the future.
Probably by this weekend.
Yeah. So essentially, now the reasons to acquire the token at this stage are starting to a little bit dry up on Odysee. Now, have you given any thoughts to if that's a problem at this stage, or if it will be a problem, or more importantly, how you might solve the problem. So then it's kind of all fixed. And obviously, understanding that this is a precarious situation because the government hates you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that that's true. So like Odysee is enabling more usage of the token. If credit cards are being used in parallel, well, like, look, Odysee is creating tens of millions, hopefully hundreds of millions of people soon, that are using this now. 5% of 100 million is a lot more than 100% of 100,000, right? And so I think that, like, that's very important to remember. As the legal picture gets clearer, I hope that we can make the cryptocurrency based tipping even easier than it is now. The truth is, right now it is a little handcuffed by these legal questions. The other really important thing to remember is that there's also the staking system, and we are seeing more usage of that than we have seen used before. And that's another area where the UI, that feature always existed, but we did improve the UI in terms of how to do that. And so when you type in any word in that search bar, the top item is the most staked thing that's been staked to that word, and one publish can stake against other words and other search terms. And so that is another really hard usage of the cryptocurrency, and we're seeing more and more usage of that feature as well.
Yeah. So how does that work currently? Because I sort of came of age with this, with the LBRY.TV setup, and then things seem to have shifted, or there's some kind of thing. But so when you talk about the search word, does that mean it's in the title of the claim? Does that mean it's a tag under, like, the hashtags or whatever on the video? Does that mean it's in the title of the video or in the description somewhere? So what part of that constitutes the thing, and then the money elevates it?
Yeah. So there's this concept of the amount of coins that are staked on a particular channel or a particular item that's been published to the network. By default, when you even enter this number, I think it's in the advanced settings, by default, it applies to just the name that you published at. So you pick that, essentially your URL. It's the name is the part of the URL. That's the default. And so someone would when someone types that term exactly, because there can be multiple competing entries at even the same name. What you can then do is the repost button actually allows you to repost the same content to a different name. So you can take one item and put it at 10 or 100 different terms by reposting it to those additional terms. And each repost is individually staked, right? So you could have your original publish at one word, and then you can repost that publish to a second word, and then each of those have independent amounts staked on them.
Interesting. So if you want to hit all the big search terms that are related to this thing, then you just repost each with a big old bag of LBC, and then anyone searches and it just goes right there. How's that working from the end user experience so far as people being able to discover the content that they really want?
I think it's been working pretty well. We don't see very many instances of people trying to abuse it or put, disgusting or wrong or whatever things, or affect, we don't really see that. What we see much more often is people being pro-social and saying, hey, I've got, 10 coins or 50 coins sitting around. What's something that, where is there a hole in the system? What term is not returning something that I think it should be returning, and reposting something to that name. Because I'll see it fairly regularly. I type in a term, I get what I want, and I see that it's a repost, and I'll go and I look and I say, hey, did the original publisher repost that, or is that just some good citizen? And a lot of the time it's just a good citizen. So it's a bit of a power user feature, but there are, I have no idea how many. I'm sure it's hundreds of people, probably thousands of people who are going around and attempting to kind of fill in these holes. And you can see the easiest way to do it, and this is a new flow that, well, it's not that new at this point, but I don't know how much maybe we did a bad job talking about it. But when you type in a term on Odysee, in that top card, in the bottom right of that top card, there's a button, and that lets you publish something and sort of take over what's there if you think what's there is wrong. Or I guess you have to click view competing. And then once you've clicked view competing, you can see everything that's competing at that term, and you can either stake something else that's already competing because you think something else should be better, or you can publish something new entirely.
Yeah. So that seems like, again, a great use case for acquiring the coin, because then it translates into, like, if you're trying to promote a channel or promote a product or something that's on there, it's like advertising in a little convoluted, a little bit of a way, but it can translate to, you buy tokens and you profit off of buying tokens.
Yeah. And from a crypto economic perspective, it's also incentivizing people to hold the token, because you're staking them to keep it at the top. That's not a consumptive use. They're still your tokens, but they are now not circulating and not being exchanged.
Yeah. And so I guess the last kind of point on this token front thing is about the crypto to crypto ecosystem. Now, we're at an interesting stage where, so first off, crypto is relatively, or completely, depending on what you're talking about, permissionless, whereas the fiat world is absolutely not. And so I've seen a lot of projects, especially those labeled correctly or otherwise as privacy coins, and having a lot of issues with regulators, because, or not even with regulators, just issues with flighty exchanges because of that, have been going hard on the DEX world, on the whole decentralized exchange, the whole DeFi, everything, is a way to kind of get around it, hoping to be obsolete the system, eventually. Now, at the same time, the users of especially something like Odysee, which is oddly like newbie centric, oddly like like the odds of people knowing what crypto is amongst crypto users is completely the opposite of what you see in the space, whereas everyone thinks they know about Bitcoin but don't even touch the stuff. And so obviously it makes more sense to target those people directly, because who cares if you can trade like Ethereum for LBC, because those people don't have it. At the same time, the whole crypto space is growing to such an extent that at some point it might just be, hey, everyone has this stuff, and it just, within a couple of years, everyone has something that they can easily swap over, for LBC and kind of use this. So basically, what's the state of, or how do you see the outlook of getting LBC in a lot of these crypto to crypto swaps, whether they be from like Sideshift or other swap services like that, or like full on DEX, like for example, the holy grail of that is of course Thorchain.
Yeah. So we are on a couple of, I think they would qualify as full on DEXs. I think BISC absolutely would. We're also on BlockDX. Actually don't know a ton about that one, if that would be considered a full DEX or not, but we're on both of those. We're going to be on P Network soon, so there'll be I think it's like a wrapped LBC token that you'll be able to exchange on P Network, and so this is definitely something that we're looking at, and we're gonna continue to push into more places in that area.
Yeah. Anything on the Thorchain thing in particular, because that's not the biggest thing, but also the biggest hurdle because of all the stuff that takes to develop and build on it, and all the rest of the stuff.
I don't have a specific update on that one, but that's something I'll look at if we can push that one a little harder.
Yeah. So now we'll wrap up with a hopeful outlook on like where do we go over the next couple of years. So hopefully, I guess it would have something to do with, we keep growing, keep getting more users. Hopefully the SEC case wraps up at some point, and then that opens up a lot of token stuff. But what would you like to be able to do, or what would you like the platform to actually look like, both the LBRY platform and Odysee in particular, under a best case scenario over the next couple years, if everything kind of goes your way?
Yeah, I mean, well, we probably won't hit the volume I want to hit eventually within 2 years, if I'm being realistic, or even. But look, I want to be bigger than YouTube. I want to have a user experience that's better than YouTube's, and I want to have it with the beautiful properties of LBRY, where the end users have more control, everyone has more choice, and there's not this kind of mega corp centralized ownership of the of the whole thing. You know, in terms of what numbers we'll be hitting specifically, I'm always like a little hesitant to do that. I mean, we want to hit our
like
first
numbers specifically, but just like to where every mainstream creator is either on. Their only losers are on YouTube, or like we have.
Yes, I mean, yes, exactly. I mean, why? Because like, why wouldn't you be? There's nothing, you know, there's nothing political about it. It's genuinely better. You're not gonna lose nearly as much money to the middleman. You're gonna actually own and control your identity. Your users aren't going to suffer the same, or your fans, you know, they're not going to suffer the same kind of, you know, exploitation and spying type behavior. Like, it's just like win all around. And that's, I mean, it's part of why we are winning, right? This isn't, we're not winning. You know, the fact that the Odysee brand and all this stuff is taking off, it's not because we have like some huge ad budget. It's because we've built something that's genuinely better, and people are going peer to peer and talking about it. I don't know if I mentioned that, you know, Brett Weinstein joined recently. He's been doing his live streams through Odysee. He has a huge audience, and he's giving, you know, he's saying, Odysee, this is the best platform. It's built on LBRY. This is amazing what they're doing.
Earned media.
That's an endorsement that you couldn't buy for $500,000. Okay. It's because he's bought in to what we're doing. He sees the value of it. And we're just going to see more and more of this, more and more of these people, you know, endorsing. In fact, there's another big one, potentially bigger than Brett. I don't know. I don't like to compare people. Brett's been awesome. But coming in just another week or two, someone behind the scenes has been working with us, getting familiar with it, getting all the content on, who's very careful with the kinds of things that he endorses, and he has a great reputation. And so we're only going to see more and more of this. And we are, I think, already the brand that is the most credible in terms of disrupting YouTube, and very soon will be widely seen as the brand that's succeeding YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I do check in on the viewage stats every time I can get them updated, just see how well Odysee is doing, and I chart it versus BitChute, which, you know, not trying to talk smack or anything, but BitChute seems to be the largest as far as like viewers alt site, and seems to be the most pure alt site in that it seems to be just full of all the, like, for mostly the conspiracy nonsense that YouTube banned early on, and just seems to be there. And having BitChute, in my humble opinion, again, I'm talking all the smack so you don't have to, is not a good representation of this is where you can go that's not YouTube if you don't want to be censored. And so I'd be happy to see Odysee overtake that. And so that's the metric I'm looking at. Once Odysee bumps BitChute out, is BitChute the largest, you know, of alt video site? Like,
I mean, I think
type thing.
I would be. You're not doing more views on Odysee than BitChute yet?
I don't use BitChute. I won't
oh, okay, that's what you're saying.
But I'm just saying, as far as the total usage on the site.
Yeah. I'm not sure who's number two. I mean, we've got to be very close if we haven't passed BitChute yet. I mean, people just keep sending me screenshots from the BitChute forums where it's like, people will be on Reddit and everyone's like, leave BitChute for Odysee, leave BitChute for Odysee. I mean, it's clear that there is a movement among the BitChute community to move over. I know one of the bigger BitChute creators, iHypocrite, just stopped publishing to BitChute recently, just a week or two ago, and said, hey, I'm only doing Odysee now. I'm just kind of done with BitChute. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. You know, the product's way better. The underlying technology is way better. Your creators can actually earn money. And I'm not trying to drag BitChute either. I think they did a tremendous job. They filled a niche that was really needed. We're happy to work with them, and, you know, kind of bring them into, you know, onto our team or other things like that. But I think, like, it's just clearly not the future. I don't think anyone can really look at the two and be like, I'm going to bet on BitChute. So, you know, I think it's kind of a legacy website at this point. But again, full respect to their team and what they did and what they accomplished when they were, you know, everyone's trying to scrub them from the internet, and they fought really hard and provided something that was really needed as well. So I'm not, you know, not trying to attack them, but I think, like, just being realistic, we are the future.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I'll keep on watching. Obviously, the drop in the bucket that is anything that's not YouTube versus YouTube, it's hard to really measure visually progress against at this stage. But BitChute's, of course, the big one I can keep an eye on for the eventual, or maybe already, I haven't checked this month, flipping. Yeah. And then onwards and upwards, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Odysee is a top 2,500 website already. I think we're going to crack top 2,000 pretty soon. And so, yeah, onwards, upward. 1% of France visited Odysee yesterday.
Wow.
I don't know if that's related to all the like lockdown fighting stuff going on there. But yeah, that's another area where we're crushing it. We might be closer in the US, but like internationally, we've also been incredibly embraced because all of our stuff is well translated and works in basically every language in every country.
Yeah. Cue beams of like your face on Bernie's face saying, with the French flag on the floor saying, "I am the 1%." But anyway, that's a project for later. Well, thanks so much for chatting with us. Obviously, this is going to be on Odysee. If you're not watching this on Odysee, you're watching on something inferior, so shame on you. And if you're listening to the audio-only version, that's fine too, but also go to Odysee.com and watch this stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, and what do they say? Guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Jeremy Kauffman, it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.
All right, take two, I guess. So, hey everyone, welcome to this once again. That was really terrible. Actually, I should actually leave that in at the end to be like, well, this is the struggles people have to go through. So anyway,